Hi.
Hi.
So I managed to make this little intro longer, and I still didn't manage to click go live within the time I said because you have to click it twice. And I stood there for a second and was like, oh no, I have to click it a second time.
But we got it. We're here.
We got it. We're there. It's fine. I have no idea whether anyone is watching us today because, as I said, I realized that we're overlapping with Jessica's stream as well, which I
Sorry,
didn't.
Jess.
Sorry. Also, probably because we normally do Sundays, and this was a bit of a last minute. Let's do Saturday. I'm
Yeah,
free.
we're
You're
throwing a
free.
curveball.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a while for us, so I'm a bit rusty in my hosting qualities and my hosting, experience, whatever.
That's all
But
right.
I'm Malin. This is my channel, and currently I'm going to be trying to read Save the Cat, write a young adult novel. So that's what I'll be working on today. Hopefully, productive sprints. And Anna, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Robbins. I'm a fantasy writer who sometimes makes videos. Emphasis on the sometimes lately. But yeah, today I think I'm going to be hopping back into my project, and I have a little bit more organizing to do with all of my beta reading feedback that I have. So I'm kind of coming off of a writing break
Mm.
and really just trying to get back into it, get my feet wet again.
I like that you called it a writing break and not a slump because I feel like we say the word writing slump so like
Mhm.
all the time. I feel like I use it all the time, and then
Yeah.
sometimes it's like no, it's a forced break. It's sometimes you need the break. It's good. It's important
Yes.
to have it, and it's
Yeah.
not always because you can't. It's sometimes because it's better that way. So
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a like intentional break for me this
yeah,
time, which feels nice. And yeah, I feel like writing slump is like every time I try to write, I sit down and get like 100 words and it took me an hour. Like that feels like a slump to me.
yes. When you actually have done everything else, like you've opened your document and you're in front of it and you're not writing words.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're not
I agree.
feeling the momentum.
But sometimes my slump are more like life slumps, and they're more like, oh, it's not so much I don't want to do any writing if I'm in front of my document. It's like I can't
Mhm.
bring myself to open it because I've got my mind on other stuff,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's also fine. That was not actually the topic that I selected to converse around today. But whatever.
I'll take us off the rails anytime.
I'll just say hi. There's like one hi in the comments. Hi, cool gamer.
Hi.
I again appreciate your consistency. I think literally yesterday I was on Michael's channel and said, "Cool gamer's always there. Cool gamer's always showing up." So I
Love that.
appreciate that. And Flora says, "Hello, hello. I'm gonna try
Hi.
and get some chores done, and then it's time to just chill and maybe do some editing." Nice. All of that sounds really good and productive. Yeah,
Mhm.
obviously I'm not even going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be writing, maybe I will, but I'm mostly reading a writing craft book. So I'm not going to be normally working on my novel. So anyone can do whatever they want during those um, sprints. So I do have a couple of questions, which I feel like maybe I'll start with that. And
Sure.
then we can jump into a sprint. And I have a couple of different timers, various times. So it depends what you feel like. If you're more like
Sounds good.
10 minutes, 45 minutes in between, whatever works.
Cool.
Okay, so my first question is, do you read like a writer?
Mm.
That could be on purpose, like actively trying to be like, I really want to learn how to improve something in my writing, and I've picked up this book and I feel like this author really nailed this, so I'm going to read it like a writer, or accidentally, like I was telling you and Hudson last week, that I picked up a book that was on Kindle Unlimited that ended up making me feel like a better reader because I kept
Mm.
noticing small things that could be fixed. So
Yeah.
either way, both can happen. So do you ever do that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it kind of depends on the immersiveness and quality of the book. So if there's anything kind of pulling me out of it, then I tend to be looking at it as a writer and be like, oh,
Yeah,
why am I not really sinking into this? Why am I kind of still thinking in my
yeah.
writer head?
So that's like the
Um,
accidental
yeah,
version,
yeah, it's
which
kind of like,
also I've noticed sometimes is when I notice who the author is. Like if I'm
mm,
ever I don't want to, put a whole category in there, but sometimes I'll be like, oh, this was written by a man type of vibe. Then I'm like, really not immersed in the story anymore because I'm noticing who the
Yeah.
character is.
Yeah. And I totally recognize like it's really hard for a writer to write something and give it to another writer and have that writer not read it as a writer, like to get
Yeah.
on that level of immersiveness where someone can just sink into your story and completely forget about how it was made
Like, do
is
you feel like
really
sometimes
hard.
it ruins the experience because you're like, oh, I could be more immersed if I didn't have all that knowledge about craft in my head?
Yeah, I think so. I think the best books are so immersive that I completely forget to think
Yeah.
about those
Yeah.
sorts of things. And I'm also a very like along for the ride type of reader. So if I read anything with a mystery or any sort of like suspenseful element, I'm nothing is happening up here.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying it. I'm along for it. So I'm not really the kind of reader to step back and be like thinking in my own head anyway.
Yeah.
So for me to get pulled out, it has to be um
Big. Like, it has
pretty
to be.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can like they say it's those times when you can see the author.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you can
Yeah.
see them kind of shuffling things around or throwing things around in your path and
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I'm the same as you, where I've always said that to me the best form of like any sort of media that I've got to enjoy, like writing or TV shows or
Mhm.
movies. I used to say that particularly about movie, but I've always thought I just need to be entertained. Like,
Yeah.
just that's it. I'm a bare minimum person when it comes to that. Like, the bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
I just
Me
need to
too.
be entertained.
Yeah, I think we're the same in that.
Yeah. And so like I'm easygoing if I know what I'm picking up, if I'm aware of like the genre and the genre
Mhm.
formulas and things like that. Like if I'm picking up a romance, I know what it's gonna have, what to
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to go along for the ride like you and just be like, yeah, I'll get plunged into that kind of story. So when I
Yeah.
notice that there's like, oh, this is the red herring in this thriller, and I just know that it's the red herring, or like things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the books that I really like, if I notice one thing kind of trips off my writer brain,
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing. It doesn't take away at all. Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to deduct a star because they made me think about my own writing. Like not at all. Like
Yeah.
I'm finally reading Legends and Lattes right now. I have it right next to me.
Ooh,
Yay! And I'm
yay.
loving it. It's so sweet. And it's like this
Is
is like
this
my bedtime book, my
is,
unwind book.
is this because of all my comments about cozy reading? And I was like, here's a one that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've been meaning to read it forever. But last night I was thinking about the fact that the scene breaks in this book are kind of strange.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it doesn't take away at all from my enjoyment of it, but it just, it's another lesson about what you like in your own books.
Yeah. I similarly, the one that I was reading, the Kindle Unlimited romance book. So it's basically like a sci-fi fantasy, like heavy fantasy. There's just some spaceships, but it feels like
Yeah.
fantasy rather than
Space
sci-fi.
magic.
Yeah. It was like a sort of sci-fi fantasy romance, and in some of the like scenes that were going from one spot to another, or going from one time to another, there was a
Mhm.
lot of continuous description that was like, no, you need to cut it. Like we don't
Mm.
need all that bit. Like you cut it at that stage, and then we
Yeah.
go from that scene to that scene, and that's a new scene, and that's
Yeah.
normal. But
And that's the book that you said felt like could have needed another reader.
yeah, it upset me because I liked the premise, I liked the concept, and I was ready to get like I was
Yeah.
ready for sort of fun trash. If
Right.
that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting the genre expectations and everything. I was like, cool, but it had too many issues that bothered me and that I kept noticing, and that I kept being like, oh, you really
Yeah.
should have like had a better reader on this who could have told you all of these things. But
Yeah. It's almost like the sum, what's that saying? Sum is greater than, I forget what it is.
the parts of
Yeah. It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
if things keep stacking up,
yeah,
then that's kind of like,
exactly.
oh, okay.
But then on the other hand, I also sometimes try to read like a writer on purpose. But that's
Mm.
mostly for me if I'm trying to improve something that I know I'm struggling with, like say vocabulary, like expanding some of my vocabulary or something.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like one author, Jeff Vandermeer. in particular. Whenever I read his books, he wrote Annihilation, the
Oh,
trilogy,
yes, I've read that.
and Born, which is the one that I was really reading like a writer, because he has such a good use of vocabulary that doesn't trip me up. This was another thing in the KU book that I was reading, is the beginning felt very flowery and like a little bit like on purpose on the nose, you know, like I'm using as many words to describe this as possible type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
While in his books, it feels subtle enough. You just notice that you're like, oh, I don't really know what that means, but that's like a really good use of this word type of thing. So
Oh, cool.
when I was reading his book, I was like actively stopping and taking notes. I'm like, oh, I like this sentence or this word, or
Yeah.
I'm just trying to read like a writer.
Yeah. I love reading books like that where the voice is also really strong. And then
Yeah.
it's refreshing to read. It almost feels like reading a new way to write when
Yeah.
someone has a really strong use of vocabulary and voice. Like
Yeah.
I just read Soulless by Gail Carriger. Gail
Yeah.
Carriger. Which I was reading for a potential comp for Project Gemstone because it takes place in like an alternate paranormal London, Victorian London. And so the
Did it
prose
feel
is
like a good comp?
it did, yeah, but very, very different, but also had similar aspects. So I do think it was
Yeah.
a good comp. But the voice was very heightened because they really were like taking advantage of the time period, and even more
Yeah.
heightened than I wrote, quite a bit more heightened. And that was really fun just to see, because those sentence structures are so long and twisting,
Yeah.
and they have phrases and words that we just don't use anymore. And I wouldn't know as a writer because I haven't read a lot of books from that time period. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's always really useful as well if you're setting yourself in a particular setup, like a different time period, to be able to read like a writer other books from that genre. Or yeah,
Yeah.
like you were saying, to find a comp title as well. Sometimes that's like partially helpful. We've got Grape Fry. Hi, how's it going? And Caitlin, hello, how's it going? Also, feel free to answer the question on the screen, guys, if you want in the comments. You don't have to, but we've just given you our answers. I think what I'll do is start a sprint now. And if you want to answer it during the sprint, feel free to do so, and we'll read them from the comments. And then I think I'll put what do you think, like 25 minutes?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, just get us back into the
Nothing that
rhythm.
intimidating.
Do I just present? It's been a while.
Yeah, me too. I feel rusty.
Share screen, and then I'll select. I've got this one. There we go. And then if I go full screen, does that work?
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's already started, hasn't it? No, it hasn't. Okay, cool. Fine. Perfect. Okay, let's get started.
All right.
Hi. I have not been sharing the actual sound because I knew that there's always like a bit of a sound with some timers, and sometimes people get freaked out by it. So it's just like, should I share it or should I not share the sound?
How was your sprint?
Good. I managed to read and take notes of about 10 pages or so. I sort of feel like it's so slow, but it's because I'm generally like taking notes of things and making it into an actual like lesson plan almost, like
Yeah.
on Notion. And I feel like it's making, as I'm going, I keep thinking about my 3 different novels and being like, oh, I should adapt this to that. And it's worrying. It's like not, it's both a not good feeling and a good feeling to be like, oh, maybe the art of summoning demons could use some refresh inside.
What? Oh no.
It's like, oh, it's just I'm just reaching the part where she's talking about the multiple B story characters. So the characters are sort of like the helpers and help the hero understand the theme.
Yeah.
And there was one already in the past. I think I even asked you, like, do you think he's redundant? Like that I shouldn't have this character. And now I'm just like, I don't think he's redundant, but I feel like I should have him be more of a theme stater.
Yeah. Just grow his purpose.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, how was your sprint?
It was good. Yeah, I remembered to completely divert and go in a different direction. I had like wicked insomnia a couple of nights ago. And so as I was staying up from like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., the hours are ticking by. I started plotting a new series in my head.
Are you serious? These are the best ones.
And I haven't yet like written down and just like sat down and written down everything that I thought of while I was just like laying in bed.
Oh my god, I want to hear everything about this.
It's I think it's going to be, well, who knows if I'll ever actually get around to writing it, but maybe this is like nano 2025, but it's a romance series and each one takes place on a different reality show.
Yeah.
So they're contemporary romances. I'm a huge Survivor fan.
Yeah.
And so the first one is a Survivor-like show.
Oh my god, okay. Do you know what? I don't watch a lot of reality TV shows, but I would enjoy that kind of. I actually used to love, there were some movies that were about like a romance into a reality TV show.
Yeah.
I've seen movies like that with that as a theme, and I love that. I like it when it's fiction.
Yes.
Fiction version of that.
Basically. Yeah, it's not real people's like hearts getting hurt and played with. Yeah.
I'd love to read that.
I'm very excited.
We had a couple of answers in the chat. I like that Caitlin was like, whoops, wrong account. I didn't see that. I was like, oh, a new Caitlin. No, I didn't realize that was the same Caitlin. Grape says, I'm trying. Okay, so in answer to our question, which was about reading like a writer, Grape says, I'm trying more now, more so looking at structure and pace rather than voice or prose. Yeah, so I feel like when it comes to structure, I'm trying to read more craft books. And when it comes to voice and prose, I'm trying to read more books that I'm like, that's written in a way that I would like to write.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sasha joined us during the sprint. Hello.
Hi, Sasha.
Hi, guys. I'm driving to work, so I'm going to be lurking. So happy you're streaming. Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it sure has. It's been a busy summer.
It has. I definitely feel a bit rusty as a host, but you're there to help me.
Yeah.
Weird. And you're like, and in answer to the question, Sasha says, also, I read like a writer if it's in my genre. Yes, that's true.
Very true.
If I don't write it, mysteries, for example, I read like a normal person. Yeah, okay. I see that.
This makes sense.
Yeah. And Flora answered as well. Now and then I definitely catch myself talking about voice, structure, pacing, etc. when telling friends about books I'm reading. Yes, and I wonder how your friends, if they're writing friends, but if they're not, how do they take it? And are they like, I don't care? Or do they come back with like, do they notice these things as well accidentally? Or so I had a B side to this question, which is essentially the same thing, but just about movies and TV shows. Mostly because I've been catching myself doing it more and more.
Yeah.
And probably because I'm rereading Save the Cat, but the YA version right now.
Yeah.
And it's initially about script writing. So
Right.
originally it was for movies. And I think some more TV shows now than back in the day. I remember back in the day, TV shows where like, here's one episode where everything is encompassed into the same episode, and then another one, and then so you had maybe more of a formula because they didn't know if people were gonna like watch the whole season and
Yeah.
catch it live on TV.
Yeah.
I remember reading an article about Charmed, and the creators of Charmed were like, back in the day, the girls didn't have one single love interest in one season. They had a different one every episode because we didn't know if people would remember like the same
Oh my gosh.
side characters like in the
Wow.
season. And then they changed their formula as they grew, and the format changed, and people were watching more like.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was watching Ted Lasso with my
Oh, the
husband,
best.
and there's like a moment in season 1 where I was like, "That's her Dark Night of the Soul moment."
Yeah, definitely.
And Junior was like, "What?"
Yeah, totally. I remember I see a lot more movies, obviously, because it's compressed. And one that sticks out to me is the newest Top Gun movie. We went to go see it.
Is it Maverick or
Yes. Yeah. And specifically that one in the whole like conflict through the end. I was tracking it like per Save the Cat, and I was like, oh, here's like because at that time I was maybe even that was when I was writing the end of my book, and so I was going through like the 5-part ending where you make your plan, but then the plan goes awry and you have to make a new plan on the fly and you rise up and achieve. And so I like was tracking that through the Top Gun movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this plan's not going to work.
Some movies in particular really follow it so precisely that you notice it more than other movies that do it more subtly. And sometimes I like noticing those moments, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's too obvious, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
especially like Disney movies.
like more for teenagers maybe is going to be a little bit more. But also I think it was Emma, the newest version of Emma that came out a couple of years ago. I can't remember when. And I think when I was watching it, I was reading the first Save the Cat version.
Yeah.
And the scenes at the very beginning, I was like, that's her Save the Cat moment. Because she's sort of like meant to be a character that's not very likable in some ways. And then there was like that one moment that was like, that's her, she's a likable character moment.
Yeah, now we can root for her.
Yeah. And it was so obvious to me, but it was still well done. So I wasn't upset about noticing it. It was just because I was deep into reading about it at the time. But yeah, it ruins sometimes the ending of things for me. Not, it doesn't ruin them, but just I'm aware of, oh, have you frozen, Anna? I think Anna is frozen. It's not me, I hope. If anyone in the chat can confirm whether I'm still there and they can still hear me, because I've lost Anna and I'd like to make sure it's not my side that's having an issue. Oh well. I will see when she comes back. In the meantime, if you guys want to also answer that part of the question. Oh, I see we have someone who arrived. Hello, Tamika. How's it going? And okay, I'm here. Okay, cool. Yes, I know, right? The same thing happened to you, Grape, the other day. And I think, oh, she's completely gone. I think that her internet, she had some issues with her internet. I think she's at her parents' and there was a storm last night. So I don't know whether there's any more issues now, but yes. Okay, good to know it's not me because I'm the host, and so I want to make sure StreamYard is still going. And we had an answer here, Flora. They're not writing friends okay yet, but usually they think it's interesting or like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I find that some people often find that interesting because they're not aware of it, but then if you note it for them, they're like, oh, yeah, I see that. And then sometimes people are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. So while I wait for her to reconnect, if you guys want to answer part 2, that was my second question, part 2 of my first question, if you ever do this as well, feel free to do so. And in the meantime, I'm just going to get another timer ready. I'll get like a shorter one, 15 minutes. There we go. Give me 1 second. Present. I always struggle to do this. Share screen and share this. I'm really into the Halloween vibe at the moment, as you can see. So even though it's sweltering hot in the UK right now, but yes. Okay, cool. Let's get started and see you guys in 15 minutes. Okay. There we go. I hope that didn't scare anyone.
I'm sorry. That was probably spooky getting left on the stream by yourself.
It was fine. For a second, I wasn't sure if you were just very immobile or frozen.
If I was just really thinking so hard that I had to stay still for a minute.
And then, like, it took me just a second, and then I was like, no, she's frozen. And then I had to make sure with the chat. I was like, is she frozen or am I frozen?
Oh, God. Yeah, we briefly lost power again, and then it flipped right back on, so I just had to reset the router. Okay. Yay!
If there's any other issues like that, don't worry at all. I know that I may sound panicky when that happens, but I'll just put in another sprint. I'm like, 15 minute sprint here, there, everyone getting productive.
Yeah, that's right.
How did you do? Did you manage to do anything? Or was it just router restart?
Yeah, I just kind of finished typing up some ideas about the survivor plot because I had a few more things to write down.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds really exciting.
I'm excited. I'm trying to not daydream about writing it for this NaNoWriMo because I literally have so much else to do.
Yeah, I never participated in NaNoWriMo, and every year that I've been like, maybe I will this year, maybe like last year, it was like, maybe I will this year, and then we got a dog, and then it was like, no
way. Not a new puppy. Nope.
No, not gonna happen. Maybe this year I could, because my work has a third designer now. So basically, before, when I joined, the third designer was on maternity leave, and now she's back. Okay. So there's one more person to take on the work. So maybe work-wise it'll be okay, and I could.
Yeah.
Or I could do a mini nano and just sort of like camp nano during Nano Month.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm gonna end up. Not to completely derail this conversation again, but I think that's what I think I'm going to do, is do a camp nano type thing. And probably do revisions.
Yeah, I've learned that if I set goals for myself that are a bit too unrealistic, then I struggle through them, and then I feel like, oh, I should just stop and do nothing at all then. While if I set lower goals that are achievable, and even if I'm failing a bit, I'm like, no, I can still do this, and I can still get there. So I push myself more. I'm just gonna go through the comments that were posted during this sprint. But yeah, there was good confirmation there. I was just like, and Grape did say that you were in a gorgeous freeze frame, by the way.
Oh God,
you have a good expression on you. That's why I was confused. It's not like you were like.
Well, that's a plus at least. It'll probably never happen again.
Yeah, I was asking, like, is it me? Is it her?
It's me, Jesus. I literally said that after I had been frozen. I said, is it me, Jesus? But of course, no one responded.
Is it me, Jesus? Am I the problem? Grape said, I notice it, but I don't try to internalize it like I do with books. Yeah, I feel like it's more accidental on my part as well when I do it with movies. Yeah. Unless it's stressing me to watch a movie. Like sometimes I'll be like, at least I know what's going to happen because of the structure that it has to follow.
That was definitely me watching Top Gun because, oh my God, my heart rate during that movie was like 180 BPM from beginning to end.
But was your heart rate high because of the beach scene?
Or that.
Yes. You know what? I haven't watched the movie, by the way. All I've watched is the beach scene because everyone posted it on TikTok. But
oh my gosh. It's good. It's good.
Okay. I totally do. It's kind of a problem. And I have to tell my partner about it as I'm watching. He loves when I do that. Also, how are you liking Save the Cat? YA version. Yeah, so to answer the first part, yes, I do the same thing with my partner, but I don't think he loves it. I just think he's confused by it. I don't think he hates it. He's just like, what's a Dark Night of the Soul? What's a break into two? Which, fair enough. And I am liking it so far, but I will caveat this by saying I've not read the original Save the Cat one in a long time. So I'm rediscovering things or like actively taking note of things that maybe the first time I read it, I wasn't paying as much attention to. And so I'm not sure yet entirely of how different it is from the first book. However, there are already some mentions of things that are useful for me and that I think she expands later on. So she did say she was going to write more about multiple POVs, how to, she especially, I'm really interested in that part. She said there's a chapter that's going to be about how to modify the beat sheet for your story and how to customize it. And so I'm really interested in that. And there's already some mentions of some of these things. Like, for instance, she does talk about, like the B story character. And then she talks about multiple B story characters and explains if you need more than one, here's what to do. And it's just nice to dive a bit deeper into some of these things and not just the surface structure.
Does it seem to have a very strong like YA perspective, or do you feel like it's really just kind of a deeper dive on Save the Cat in general?
Do you know what? It's the examples. So all her examples right now are YA books, and a few I have read, so it's nice to have the reference and to know what she's talking about. But I think in the original one, she has wider examples that are more adult books as well. And she does go, so like the structure is the same, and it's the same like main grand lines. But like, for instance, she'll be like, when you're showcasing your hero's initial world where they are, the status quo.
Right.
And she's like, you need to talk about home life, work life, and play, or something like that. I think it is. I'm checking my notes. I'm such a note taker. But yeah, so she mentions these three elements, and she's like, if your character's a teenager in a YA novel, normally they are, then it's going to have to do with their parents at home and stuff, and work is going to be school. So she adapts it to a YA book, basically.
Gotcha.
And I think in the introduction, she was talking a bit more as well about how it's more important this or that because it's a YA novel.
Yeah.
But it's very readable if you're writing something else as well. Like I'm not finding it. I'm not thinking like, oh, this doesn't work for me because I'm writing an adult novel. It works as well.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe I will check it out then.
Yeah. And then our last comment in here is, sometimes I spot major changes in the writer's room, i.e. the main character behaves differently or plots are abandoned, forgotten, Game of Thrones, for no conceivable reason. Once I see it, I can't unsee it. Yeah. TV shows will do that. Yeah. Especially really long ones.
Oh, yeah. Like, what's her name? Jenny Nicholson's video on the Vampire Diaries about like all the plot inconsistencies that they have because the show just ran for so long.
Did I tell you I'm rewatching it?
You are? What are your thoughts?
I think I'm noticing more at the moment, mostly the way the actors like play, and I'm like, to be honest, what's her name? The main character, Elena. Nina Dobrev is such an underrated actress, because I'm back to like the spots where she's playing both her and Catherine, but she's playing Catherine pretending to be Elena at the very beginning when Catherine appears the first time, and you see it. You're like, yeah, that is not her, but it's someone pretending to be her.
That's cool. That's like her Helena Bonham Carter moment.
Yeah, I was like, this is really well played. Like, she's a good actress, and but I'm mostly rewatching with in mind that my main character that I'm only watching for is Caroline, and I don't care about anyone else. So to be fair, that's about it. Shall I pop the last question I had?
Let's do it.
Here we go. So, question 2, technically. When trying to fix an issue in your story or trying to get out of a writing slump, which we talked a bit about earlier, what methods do you use? I don't know if you've had time to think about that question or not, because I sent them to you like 15 minutes before this.
That's all right. Well, it really depends on like what the issue is, but I think the biggest thing for both issues and writing slumps is time. Which I know like no writer really likes to hear that, but if you truly can step away for an extended amount of time, I think it's so much better to come back with a completely fresh like frame of mind, because then you're not attached. To me, I think when I have issues, and I've learned this with like my fantasy novel that's kind of shelved at the moment, it's like when I have issues that I don't know how to fix, and then I take time away and I let myself kind of like brew on other things. And now that I'm looking back at that book, I realized it's because I was too attached to certain things and
Yeah,
holding
and
on
it's
to certain
hard
things that I
to
needed
kill
to
your
let go.
darlings, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
only time can make that easier, I
that's
think.
true. It's
Yeah.
also because it's such personal work to
Mhm.
write something. And it's funny to me because people assume that I would take things personally as a graphic designer when clients say they don't like a design or something. And I never
Right.
do, because I'm doing a job that I feel completely detached from. I'm like, I'm designing per the client requirements. When
Yeah.
I'm writing, I'm not writing thinking this is going to please potential teenagers or something.
Right.
I'm writing for me. So that makes it more personal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially
But
with that book because I had
yeah,
like taken certain aspects of this book from an even older story. And so I had picked like my three favorite aspects of that older story and carried them into that
into that
fantasy
one.
book.
Yeah.
And I just had to, after shelving it and like, a year or two goes by and I'm like, those are the things that actually are killing this story.
It's these things you were like, I can't let go.
Yeah, those were the
Yeah.
things that I like was really holding on to, and now that time has gone by, I don't have that like visceral attachment to them anymore.
Yeah.
And I found new things as I actually wrote that story. I found other things to be excited
Also,
about.
when you wait a bit of time, you are able to reread it from as though you were the beta reader or the
Right.
critique partner yourself. So you can see these things so much better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just
Oh,
more time
I
working with
will
other
say that sometimes, and I'm very scared of doing this, but like I also feel like if you wait too long, you can sort of be like, my taste has completely changed and I'm not into that
people.
story anymore.
Yeah.
Or if you rewrite it too many times, it doesn't look like anything you want to work on anymore.
Yeah. Also
There's
true.
there's that danger. And so I sort of feel like if your gut feeling, like if you're sort of the person, I don't think we are, but in case someone
Yeah.
in the comments as well is watching and thinking that, I feel like if you're constantly trying to rework things to make it work because you're like, something's not working but I can't figure out why, and you're like, I'm going
Yeah.
to rework this,
Yeah.
maybe actually taking a break and taking that distance is just better, because
Yeah.
sometimes you might ruin things that work. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought of that I'll say is in terms of issues and writing slumps is you have to kind of like, and I've had this conversation with myself about that old project that I ditched and had to pick the three things from. That old one, I kind of had this like come to Jesus moment where I asked myself, like, do I like this? Is this fun?
Yeah.
It was a dystopian,
Yeah.
and like everything was not working, there's issues everywhere, and I was feeling really slumpy with it. Like every time I sat down to write, it was like literally pulling teeth. Like I actually felt like I hated it.
This is how
And
I felt about my first one that I wrote in
mm,
French. That was
yeah,
like, I couldn't like rewrite it, like rewrite
yeah,
anything. I had, it was like you're saying, pulling teeth.
yeah. And I know there's a difference between like the writing is just hard right now, or there's nothing in this project that is giving me like, ooh,
Yeah,
And what can you do to add in a like, ooh, exciting? Like if there's
yeah.
something you can add into the plot for you to
And the
look
thing is,
forward to.
I'm
Yeah.
not even sure. Like, there's no magic formula to fix that feeling. It's just like sometimes a project's not right, or sometimes you need like time to see
Yeah.
what the issues are that would like help. But when I was writing the first English novel, so like The Art of Summoning Demons, and after I finished the zero draft, I was like, I just want to plunge straight back in. So to
Mm,
me, that was just that feeling of like excitement and
yeah.
wanting to reread it myself and be like, I'm gonna enjoy this as a reader just to see what it feels like, was so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think don't be afraid to ask yourself, like, am I having fun doing this? I
Yeah.
mean, writing is always hard, but it should have a little bit of fun too. And if you're literally forcing yourself through the entire draft from
And that's
beginning to end.
also another good method I find to get out of a writing slump, is simply write something else. And
Yeah.
I know people are gonna be like, oh, don't give in to your plot bunnies or whatever you call it.
Yeah, but just for a day, just be like, I'm gonna think of the most
Yeah.
fun thing that I could write right now, like a scene that would just be like, you know, even if it's just like trashy fun garbage, just write it.
Just
And
get back into the
yeah,
fun. And if the fun is going to be a shiny new idea, even if it's just plotting it or putting your notes down somewhere so you know it's done, like what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's a good way to get out of a writing slump in general, because sometimes you
Mhm.
get really excited about your other stories as well, because as you're writing down ideas, you're like, oh, actually that could work over
Yeah.
there. Or,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think usually when I'm in a like real actual writing slump, it means that there's some element of excitement missing from the plot.
Yeah.
Like I, as a reader and story enjoyer, I'm like
Yeah.
detached from the plot because there's nothing in it. There no cookies, as I
Yeah.
think Alexa Dunn has said. There's no cookies in it, and you have to add your cookies in.
Yeah. I've got some answers in the chat as well. So I'll just go through them. So we've got Sasha saying, I'm with Anna. I have to step away because it becomes a snowball of slumpdom. I like that term, slumpdom. If I force myself to push on, I try to work on different projects for a mental refresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well, Sasha, on the different projects thing. I think I used to have a lot more writing slumps when I was only writing one project. And I struggled to revise it because I wasn't writing something new at the time yet.
Mm.
And so I didn't want to, like, it was my one and only thing that I had to work on. And when I'm now in a situation where I could rework some things on that one, I have one zero draft that is completely finished that I can work on. And I have one that I'm currently writing, then I'm at different stages, so I feel like there's less potential for slumps. I don't know.
You can pick your whatever you want to make today.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, I know that it's not always a great idea to completely jump from one ID to a new shiny ID all the time. But sometimes it's helpful just to have more than one project you can work on,
Yeah.
just because your brain might be like, no, I'm more shifted towards this one now.
Yeah.
Tamika says, I agree, time away helps, or working on something else. Also, watching TV movie unintentionally helps because of the visual medium that shows me what my story is missing or needs.
Yeah.
100%. And if you have like a genre that is very prominent right now as well, like if you're writing in a genre that you know there's a TV show you want to watch that in that same genre, that's quite helpful.
Yeah. I love watching a drama of some kind when I'm in a writing slump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sometimes just rewatching old stuff that I know would have inspired me anyway, because I enjoyed it the first time, and that's probably formed what I like writing in some way
Right.
or another.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Grape says, I don't know. Cry emoji. I've yet to figure out how to fix my issues, so I skip over them and then move to the next project. And I'm still in the writing slump. No. Well, I hope that discussing it with everyone and listening to what they're doing to get out of their writing slump will help. And if not, we can figure out more methods.
Yeah. I know you have lots of writing friends, and I'm sure you've spoken your project out loud, but definitely that's so helpful to me too. And sometimes I'm talking to Luke about a problem I have, and he doesn't even have to say anything. If I just talk for a minute, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, never mind. I think I know what my problem is.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes just speaking to someone else about it, because you've had your head into that project for so long,
Yeah.
and just being able to talk about it to someone else is really helpful.
Yeah.
And you're also right in the sense that you can have writing friends that are going to help you in the writing way, but also sometimes, yeah, just talk to someone who's not a
Yeah.
writing friend, because they'll see it from the reader's point of view, or the just how
Yeah.
would I be entertained by this, or I don't know.
Just forcing yourself to articulate it instead of like having this like ugh feeling is helpful. Like
Yeah.
I remember one time I was working on a scene for Project Gemstone, and I went to Luke and I was like, oh, the scene's just not working. Like it's just really dead. And I just think that Poppy is being too passive. And then I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's it. That's the problem. Okay, bye. I'm gonna go fix it. And he was like, okay.
That's amazing. That's
Just
perfect.
get your mouth like
Yeah.
babbling and see what comes
Or
out.
I personally like to write things down. I like bullet point lists. That's my joy. So
Yeah. Sometimes it's helpful to see like what is not working in a
if
list, and what you don't want
yeah,
shows you what you do want.
if anyone like me has enough Virgo in their chart, they will do the same thing. We need lists.
Yeah.
We're list girlies, and it will just help to visualize the state of things and like
Yeah.
list your issues. List your issues. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But also the writing slump in general. it can be for different reasons. And I think the first way to fix it is just figure out why. And
Yeah.
for me, generally, this year it has, or in last year, whenever I've had one, it's been a life slump. It's not been a writing slump.
Same.
And sometimes it's like, I can't do anything about that. I'm just not going to enjoy writing right now. And it's okay. Take the break
Yeah.
and then go back to it when you have more freedom in your life or something, like whatever it was that was blocking you. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Precisely. Agreed.
Flora says, I also think trying to figure out maybe after a break what I don't like doesn't work helps. Is it the structure, the prose, the world, to kind of narrow it down and not feel like it all sucks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I
important to
like,
try and pinpoint it.
yeah. And I don't know if Flora, you're also a pantser or a plotzer, headlights writer, whatever you want to call it. I'm more of the middle one. And I agree. Like, to me, sometimes it's I need to take a break because I haven't figured out what's coming up next yet.
Yeah.
And then when I do, I can write again.
Yep. Very much so.
And Grip says, my problem is that I never go back to fix the issues. Yeah, but that you've got to force yourself or make someone make you accountable, like have an accountability buddy on that specifically.
Yeah.
Or once you finished, instead of going back to fix the issues, just go back to list them, and you already will start thinking about them,
Yeah.
and maybe you'll fix them. I don't know.
Also, like, I never go back to fix anything when I'm in the middle of a draft. Like, if you're kind of in a slump in the middle and you're like, oh, this is kind of feeling wrong, even if you can just pinpoint why it feels wrong, then it's
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, I know how to move forward now, and I'll keep that in mind as I go forward. But I'm not going back to fix it
yeah.
until, this draft is done and I'm in the next revision.
But then you do have to go back.
But then you do. But then you do.
But then you do at some point or another.
Sometimes just knowing what you did and what's up can kind of relieve that
Yeah.
feeling.
Should I look for another timer? What sort of timing are we thinking? I kind of wanted to do maybe 40 minutes. Is that too much?
No, that sounds good because
Yeah.
I'll close my like plot bunnies and actually do some actual work.
So I'm thinking like one big one, and then we'll come back and do some closing chat.
Yeah.
And because I don't have any more questions, sorry guys. And
That
and
sounds
that's
good.
it. So I do have a 45 one, but I'll just put it down to 40.
Cool.
Let me find the right spot. There we go. And it is a cute ghost one because we're still in the Halloween vibe.
Love it.
45 minutes ghost timer. Share. So cute.
Cute.
Okay. And I will take the banner off. And we can go ahead and start. See you in
All
40
right.
minutes. let's not start another one. Sorry.
Sounds good.
Here we go. How did you do? That was a good
Good.
14 minutes.
Yeah, that was good. I finished all my like organization that I had to do
Nice.
because I'm opening a new campfire document and put all the episodes in and just attaching comments in each like individual episode.
Yeah.
So now when I like open up like episode 3, like on the side, I just see those comments that were related to like episode 3.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I always I like whenever you explain how you use campfire and stuff. All of those different. I love watching people use different,
Yeah.
novel writing programs because I don't feel like I'm stuck with Scrivener, but I just don't think I have the will to learn something new at this
Yeah, that
point.
is totally fair.
I'm just like, it works enough for me, and that's all I need. But I'm always scared by those stories of people who lose some of their novels and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's always worrying.
Everything has its drawbacks and everything has its pros, but
Yeah,
um yeah,
yeah,
I like it and I haven't even hardly scratched the surface on everything that Campfire.
yeah.
Like I just kind of started using like the note cards that it has and I'm sure anything it can do Scrivener can do.
I
It's
anything
so
I can
great.
do, you can do better. But
Yeah.
Scrivener is the same in a way because it's not super intuitive. And so a lot of
Mhm.
things I just haven't figured out or found out by chance, if that makes sense. Like some programs, I feel like you can just accidentally find what you might not be looking for and then
Right.
be like, oh, this would be really useful. Scrivener, I feel like is a little bit more closed in.
Yeah, you
And
really have to go out of your way to learn new things on
yeah.
Scrivener.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, so there's no practical way to do this. So I'm not gonna try to.
Yeah.
But yeah. I managed to get to the all is lost point. So the
Uh-huh.
75% mention of it. So obviously there's a lot more in the book. I'm reading it on my Kindle and taking notes because I own the original Save the Cat in physical format. So I was like, if I'm going to buy a second version, I'm just going to have it on a different format.
Yeah.
And I think I'm finally getting to sort of what might help me where I am at in my space opera romance. And I
Exciting.
need to stop calling it a romance because I think my main issue was that I was trying to fit it into romancing
Oh,
the
really?
was it called romancing
The
the
beat?
beats? Yes, um, beat sheet, and I don't think that it is. I feel like the romance is still more of a B story than the A.
Ah, okay.
It's a lot more prominent than any other book that I've written. I feel like it's
Mhm.
more there, but the main story is still
You still have an action plot.
yeah, it's still the action plot. So yeah, and maybe I'm just struggling with balancing the two and figuring out which one needs to be more prominent, and that's been my issue.
Yeah, it's hard.
Um,
I
we've
still
got,
haven't ever figured that out, so
it is really difficult, and it's also like, what do I enjoy? Like, what would I enjoy reading more? Because
Mhm.
I actually do love really well crafted stories that are more about the plot and the action and everything, and
Yeah.
then there's a really nice love story in there.
Yeah. I
And
feel like
I also enjoy full on love like romances. So
yeah. Yeah, with my, like, romantasy, I love when it is exactly 50-50,
yeah,
and that's so hard to find, where they actually have a really
yeah,
intriguing plot that's kind of
yeah.
pushing the romance in some way, and they're not just, like, separate happening,
And,
like, they have big effects on each other.
and my main issue is that when you follow romancing the beat, it's all about what's meant to happen to the love story, what's meant to
Yeah.
happen to the two characters. Like, you know, are they at a stage where they're going to fight over something and have like a false defeat, or like all of these type of things are
Yeah.
adapted to this specifically, and that was why I was struggling to figure out how to make sure that the rest was still interesting, because I was like,
Mhm.
wait, but I've tried to figure this bit out and now I don't know where my villain is, and you know what they're doing.
What's actually happening.
What's actually happening outside of their romance. So
Yeah.
yeah. I've got a couple comments that came through. Katie joined us. Hello, besties. Didn't realize you all were streaming today. Hi. Yes, I think we accidentally overlapped with one of Jessica's streams, and normally we do Sundays, not Saturdays. So, and it was also a very late decision, so we didn't even put it in the calendar. I'm so sorry. We had been talking about streaming for a while, but then my internet was not ready for like a whole month after I moved into the new house. So
Oh
we
my
didn't do it
gosh.
then.
Yeah. How did you feel on your internet hiatus? Like, did you
It was
feel
okay.
detoxed?
Do you know what? No, it was fine because I couldn't stream, couldn't possibly do that. But the 5G was really, really strong.
Oh, good.
And so much better than in Wimbledon, where I lived before, because there's a few areas where in London people will be very like, no, we don't want anything ugly to make this area like look more ugly. And Wimbledon is one of those places. So like the closer you get to the village where the richer, older people live, the less internet you have. Essentially.
Funny.
Someone else told me this and I was like, that makes sense. That is my
Yeah.
experience. Nikki said that she rested between vacuuming. Very nice. Very good chore, doing.
Yeah. Kudos. Kudos for vacuuming. I hate vacuuming.
I enjoy it since I've bought a new vacuum that is really strong, but I don't enjoy it in general otherwise. You know, it's like a gadget and then you're like, yeah, that's fun. And
Why
never
am I
again.
sweating so much is what I think every time I vacuum.
But I don't, like, I've had to do it a lot more recently because Edgar is shedding, I think, and he's got hairs going everywhere. So,
oh, the puppy.
Balancing different genre elements is so tough. Yeah, it's also like really confusing for people like me who aren't super versed in structure because I've always been more of a pantser. So I feel like I constantly need to go back and be like, wait, what should happen around this point? And like if it's not vibes, then what is it?
Yeah.
Where do I go?
Someone tell me what to do.
Yeah. So I've been struggling a little bit with this. But I feel like this is quite useful as a refresher. So I'm happy that I'm reading it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk too much about it because the point was for me to talk about it with Steve on his channel when we were doing that stream. And to be fair, I'm not very far in the book because the beat sheet is quite early on, and then there's quite a few more chapters after this. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear you guys talk about it. And as I was like doing my plot bunny like brain dump, I was like, oh, this is the point where if I was home, I would go to my bookshelf and take out my Save the Cat and just flip open the beat sheet because that's kind of how I brainstorm now is just with that.
Which is why you should have a version on your Kindle or your Kindle app.
So maybe I'll get the new one on my Kindle because I do have that.
One of the reasons we wanted to read it is because we were both intrigued as to whether it was different enough from the original one.
Yeah.
What new content is in. And yeah, I am currently writing my first ever 2 POVs. So it will be useful for me to get to that point. Because it's 2 heroes, but then there's also like, you always have one that's more the hero than the other.
Right.
Like you have to have a favorite child. There's no other way around it.
You do. Yeah, I would definitely be interested in all the like multi POV or dual POV stuff that it has. Because I'm thinking that that's how I want to rework my first fantasy book.
And this too. This is also one of the new content bits is like how to make it work within a series. And I've struggled for a while to write standalones. And the book I'm writing now is meant to be a standalone. But then I was writing it. Obviously, I was like, oh my God, this could totally become a series.
Yeah. Oh, I remember you telling me. But were they going to take place from different characters' point
of
view?
So I
like
think
you're going to rotate?
It will remain a standalone, but just have more couples potentially focused on, more characters focused on in other books, I hope, at some point. That's the plan.
I love it. Take that romance like convention and just take it to like a 8-part space opera.
I I love it when you have a character that's like linked to the first characters, and then you get to see what's going on in their established life as a couple in
Right.
the other books, because then it's like you're out of the conflict now. There's no need to,
Right. They can just have their peace.
yeah.
And it's
I mean,
also
sure,
not
bad
boring
guys are
because
shooting at you, but you
yeah,
are together and in love.
right. And then you don't have to feel bad about like being bored with them
Yeah,
because you're with another couple.
exactly. And I
Like in the book.
remember when I was younger, I used to read. Which one is it? It's not, because we were talking about the vampire stuff, the Vampire Diaries, but it's not the Vampire Diaries. I loved Vampire Academy,
Oh, yes.
and she wrote a spin-off series at some point that was focusing on one of the characters you meet in the original series.
Oh, cool.
And so you still have interaction with the old characters, and I love
Yeah.
that. And it just, I want to write everything as a multiverse. I want to do Marvel,
Yeah.
universe stuff, but
Just drop
in
the
my
little
books.
Easter eggs.
Tamika says, I just borrowed Save the Cat YA from the library. I was surprised they had it. Yeah, that's quite soon because it only came out really recently. But the series part is what interested me too. Yeah. Yeah. That multiple POV and just to see in general the new content that she's got in.
Yeah.
I was interested. Oh my God, I love interconnected book series with different couples as the main characters. Yes.
Mhm.
Katie, that's basically what you're writing, but within one book. Instead of making them multiple books, you went like, do you know what? It's just the one.
Multiverse in one book.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff too. And I think I've talked to you already about which other couples I'm thinking of doing.
Yes, I remember.
I've got,
I'm
like,
so excited to read Space Princess. Like, still.
I like that I don't have a proper title, so it's just gonna be Space Princess until the end of time.
But I mean, that's all you had to say to me back in the day was I knew nothing about this project whatsoever, and you said it's a space opera and I'm calling it Project Space Princess because she's a runaway princess. And I was like, cool. Pre-order link? Like that's all you had to say.
Okay, that's gonna be my next TikTok if I ever get back into that kind of marketing.
Yeah.
Just be like, it's a Space Princess
Yeah.
book.
What else do you need?
And the guy is an outlaw and meant to be the worst criminal in the whole galaxy. So, okay, yes, I love seeing established couples. So it's fun to see how other characters view their dynamics. Yes, because then you get the POVs from the other characters that are like, these two are sickening.
Yeah, gross. Ew.
Yeah. Don't go for me like I'm so sorry, but like I know why you're writing it because you love that. So you were like, I'm just gonna do it all now.
Maybe it's a cheat code, and then this is the easy way to get to like a 4-part book series.
Yes. Maybe at some point you'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna revise it as 5 different books or however many. I can't remember how many couples you've got, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
Because at some point she deleted one and then re-added it in.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna have a great backlist.
Yeah. But yeah, I've got too many future ideas for this series that I'm not ready to work on yet. And I need to figure out this part. I'm still struggling to the point where I stopped at and I haven't written since in my head is either the midpoint or the break into 3. And I'm just like, it can't be both. So I have to figure out.
Maybe it can be both.
I think because at some point I was like, yeah, I'm finally getting to my midpoint. I'm there. This is the midpoint. And then as I was struggling through it and trying to write it, and I looked back and I was like, maybe that was the midpoint over there, and this is now break into 3.
I want to talk about this in a spoilery way, but I will not.
Yeah, we can do that after. It's okay, I get it. It's crazy what I'm doing. I have been thinking of doing that, although I did smash them all together because it takes place within the same span of month. But think of how cool that would be as a reader to go through. I'm not saying you should do this, by the way. You keep your story as you want to keep your story. This is your baby. This is your story. But I love this idea as well of reading a series of books that have all different couples, but they all take like place in the same span of
Yeah.
time.
And actually, I think if that's the case, then writing it this way is actually low-key genius, because
Yeah.
then you naturally are always checking in on where people are and what they're doing at certain times. So then, like, let's say, I think Sarah Sutton talked about this because she, in her series, I believe it's the same thing where it's all different couples, but it takes place over the same time. And she has
That
talked
is
about
cool.
getting stuck because she's writing book 4 and she needed like character A to go to a football game or something. But in book 1, she wrote them as going somewhere else on that day on like September 2nd or whatever.
No.
So she kind of wrote herself into a corner by like retroactively having to get people in certain places. So if you're
Yeah.
doing everybody all at once, then you already know where everybody is and you're doing your whole chessboard at the same time.
That is a really smart way to do it.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Both sound hard. Both sound hard.
Yes. I don't know if I can recommend writing all the couples at the same time as a hack.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Anna is right. You're not writing yourself in a corner if you ever decide that you want to split the book into several books.
Right.
It just makes me think of the whole Tolkien Lord of the Rings thing and how it was meant to be one book.
Yeah.
Which is mental.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I think we're probably gonna finish up soon. I should probably make my dinner soon.
Yes.
I'm sorry if you guys joined us towards the end and there's no more sprints coming up. I feel like the 40 minutes one was like
That was good.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Feeling productive. Got a couple more comments here. Emily Henry and Taylor Jenkins Reid do something similar, writing characters who show up in different books. Yes, I have read most of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I can't say anything about Carrie Soto because I DNF'd it, but other than that, I liked that. A kind of verse of standalone fiction that seems to be working with their readers. Yeah. I've not read any of Emily Henry's books though, but she's quite famous, isn't
Yeah,
she?
I didn't even realize that she did that. I've read People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read. And I would love to read more of them, but I didn't even know that she's got the characters popping in and out.
They're like, at least in Taylor Jenkins Reid's book, it's more like cameos. So it's not super obvious, I think. It's not meant to be. It's more sort of like, if you haven't read the other books, you're fine. You don't need to have to.
Yeah.
But if you have, then you might be like, oh my God, it's that person. Road to actually is a lot of work up front, I think. But it's better to have everyone where I need them. Yeah, it's sort of like a massive outline.
Yeah. Yeah.
An extremely detailed outline. Love chatting with you guys, even if it's for a little bit. Thank you. So real of you to DNF Carrie Soto.
I DNF'd it too after the
Did you too?
prologue. Yeah.
After the prologue, that's so early.
I know. I think it was because, and again, I didn't really give it a fair chance. I didn't give it a fair shot, but I think in the prologue they establish her and her dad go to a game and then they decide that she's going to get back into tennis because she can't let her like record be smashed or something like that. And I was like, oh, I just didn't care about the motivation. I was like, if that's her like reason behind everything, I legit don't care.
Same as you. My main reason was like, I don't care what she wants. Like, it's not something that I'm excited by. It's so fucking boring. It's like, I was like, this is really boring. Yeah. And then I tried to read as much as, I think I read 100 pages or a bit less. And I reached a point where things could have gotten more exciting because there's introduction of pretty much the B story character, I would say, which I assumed would be the love interest. But I was like, yeah, maybe I could get back into it because that's more exciting. And then I just never picked it up again. I just couldn't. And so I was like, okay, I don't think I'm interested enough, even by that change, to continue reading it.
Bad.
Thanks for the sprints and the lovely chat. Thank you for coming. Sorry that my outro and finishing this is so long. I thought we would finish at 1:30, so I'm just giving us 3 more minutes. It's so bad. I do not blame you, Anna. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. It wasn't me just being really ruthless.
No, I felt the same, and I've heard other people as well. So for sure. The plot is so dumb. It could have been so much more. It's so boring. It makes me so upsetty because I was so excited for it. Yeah, I feel like, should I really be bashing an author's book on a live stream that is going to be published after? Probably not. But I love all her other books, is the thing.
Yeah.
It was just, and that's why my reason for DNFing it is not so much like I thought it was bad. I just thought it was not for me.
Yeah. I just
And
thought this character is just, I don't care about her motivation the way that I need
exactly,
to.
which I'm sure some people do because they've read it, and I'm sure it's got some good reviews. So for some people, that might be a motivation they really relate to, and that they're
Right.
like, "That's my gig." It's just not mine. It's just not mine. The cover is so gorgeous, makes you want to read. Yeah, I
Yep.
have a problem with that. I'm a bad cover buyer. This was the perfect chill hang for Saturday
Oh,
evening.
thanks,
Oh, thank
Laura.
you. Also, did you fully got tennis stuff wrong? Like, how do you get the actual
No,
game wrong?
no.
I don't think I read enough to read the parts where she got it wrong, or maybe I just didn't pay attention to those.
Yeah. Once again,
Um,
get your beta readers with expertise, subject expertise.
I gotta stop or else I will run for an hour. Also, it's not just about beta readers, I'm sorry, but when you're that famous of an author and you're published by one of the big fives, you have a shit ton of people reading your book.
Yeah.
That's on them. That's on them. That's on the publishing house. It's not on her solely. Like, it should
Yeah.
be a bit on her, but it's also on all the other people that contributed to making this book happen and did not do their research as well.
Yeah. Anything sports, I would be like, hey, rule book, let's go.
Yeah. On this very controversial note, thank you guys for joining us. I don't have an outro. I can just tell you that you're on my channel. I post sometimes. It's been a while. I will post again. In the meantime, I'm giving updates on some of the books I'm reading and things like that in my shorts. So I'm doing shorts here and there. So if you want to catch up, that's where I'll be. Anna, if you want to outro yourself.
Yeah, I mean, same for me. I make videos sometimes, not right now, but I will again. I'm up in New Hampshire for the rest of this month, so filming is a little hard. And then I'm going to Scotland on my honeymoon, and so I will not be back home until mid-October. So I have no clue what writing or videos is going to look like, but I really miss it, and I want to find a way to make it like a update video soon. So hopefully that will be around maybe, and I assume we'll do a live stream in October if we can.
That would be nice. Or we might meet up during the Storytellers Hearth relay. I,
Yeah.
I struggle to say it because that's at the end of October as well.
Yes, I'm already looking
So,
forward to it.
yeah, enjoy Scotland.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. I'm going to end this
Bye.
now.